Gundam Reconguista NG. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about this show. I can honestly say that at this point, it's probably one of my least favorite Gundam anime of all time. Despite that, I still can think of a lot of things that I really enjoy about the show. I still love the art style, all of the callbacks to the original series, and even the mobile suit battles themselves are really exciting, and they're really unique as well. And that combined with, of course, its unique art style just makes it all the more distinctive. But I just can't help but be so completely confused by the end of some of these episodes. I honestly still don't really know what's going on, and 9 episodes into the series, there's really not been too much development for the main character of the show, Bellry Zenom, who essentially is just the typical nice guy pilot who's decided to join the Amerian Corps, or maybe not even join them yet. That's the thing, 9 episodes in, and he still really hasn't made like a big decision, and the Capital Army has not been revealed as the penultimate villain of the series quite yet. Although, I imagine after this week's episode, we're finally going to get there, because the main thing to take away from this week's episode, aside from the really exciting mobile suit battles and the hilarity of the Megafauna's actual pilot, who says a lot of really funny things in English, is the fact that they actually finally decide to confront the Space Pope. He's the guy who's like His Holiness, the leader of the Capital Army, so to speak. He makes all the big calls. And they go and visit him at the end, and then this other guy by the name of Colonel Koopa comes in. He's like one of the big higher-ups who's been sort of pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And then all the main characters are suddenly whisked away, and that's the end of the episode. And I'm just like, what the hell just happened? Like, really, what's going on? Even that battle in the middle of the episode when the Montero was battling against the Elf Bullock and the G-Self, I didn't quite know what was going on, even though it did look really cool. That's my only major complaint with Gundam Reconguista NG. I don't think it has a very clear narrative or where it's going, and it might be some sort of classic callback to something else in Gundam. This might actually tie into another Gundam anime series. A lot of people have theorized that this might actually be somehow related to Turner Gundam, which I think would be really cool. But until we get to that moment, I'm just kind of confused by this episode. Maybe I'm just stupid and I'm not seeing something, and maybe I should just be paying attention a little bit more, but I can't be the only one who is completely lost while watching this series. Now, despite the fact that I'm being very negative about this week's episode, I still feel that this was a good one, and like I said, it's mostly backed up by its art style and its production value. Aside from that, that's really the only good thing I can really say about this week's episode of Gundam Reconguista NG. It is the type of series that I think is going to beg rewatching, but really, I can only recommend that for like the most hardcore of Gundam fans. The good news is, if you do want a Gundam anime series that is a lot of fun and a lot easier to follow, check out Gundam Build Fighters Try. It's the second season of the Gundam Build Fighters, and don't write it off because it looks like some sort of kiddie show. It is just a blast to watch. It's pure Gundam fan service, and it gets you really excited. Whereas Gundam Reconguista NG just has me scratching my head constantly. They keep like bringing up some small things every once in a while. I especially loved when they finally was explaining what the Kuntalas were in the previous episodes, how they were literally people who were raised as livestock. And there's a lot of things they could do with that to turn this into a typical sort of dark war turmoil Gundam anime series, and it just seems like they'll just talk about it for a split second, and that's it. So there it is, guys. That's just how I feel about it. What's the rundown on this week's episode of Gundam Reconguista NG? It was okay. It was pretty much saved by the mobile suit action and the series' distinctive art style, but I'm still kind of confused as to really what's going on. But the fact that they are actually talking to the Space Pope now at the very end of this week's episode just shows that the story is probably going to be picking up a little bit more from here, and we might finally start to see like the darker side of the Capital Army and how this is all going to tie into really what's going on the moon, which was teased in last week's episode. We still don't know anything in this week's episode. Otherwise, the other thing about this episode that's probably really important is that they're still trying to drive home the fact that Bellry is in love with Ida. Duh! We've known this since episode 1. This is very simple stuff. The problem is, their development, it's not happening. We're not really seeing too much from these characters aside from the fact that Bellry's just your happy-go-lucky pilot. That's it. That's all we're getting. So, this is a series I think I really can't fully judge it until maybe it's completed, and I'm still confused as to whether this is going to be only like a 25-episode season, if they're going to split it into 2 like the other traditional Gundam anime series. I'm really interested to see where they're going with this. Maybe it'll be like a full 50-episode series, just like the classics. So for this week's episode right here, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Not a perfect score, it was pretty much saved by all of the action and its distinctive art style. It's a very pretty looking series, but I just cannot help but keep scratching my head as to what the hell is going on. However, I can still highly recommend this Gundam anime to those who've been following all of the old school Gundam anime series, and if you're just a big fan of it in general, I still say it's worth a watch. For everyone else, maybe try to watch another Gundam first before you get into this one, because it's kinda heavy-handed. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Before you leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Gundam Reconguista in G. Is there something I am missing? Is there something that I'm just not getting about this show in terms of the story? Do you guys love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's going to tie into another classic Gundam anime series? And what do you want to see from the rest of Gundam Reconguista in G? Remember, if you guys have not subscribed to our channel, you can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.